Hey, and thank you so much for joining me in today's video for the Take 5 Art Challenge of the month of December. So for this month the prompts were chosen by Sylvia. Her Instagram handle will be on the screen. It's Sylvia2Isles. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Sylvia, but thank you so much for the prompts. Now I will be showing you what I used for these prompts. Number 1, a seasonal napkin. Number 2, a poem you love or one of your own. I chose one of my many poems from 2017 when I was really into writing. And number 3, a black and white picture. Number 4, an element of nature. I was planning on using these dried orchids. And number 5, wool, which I used a piece I cut from an old blanket that I was planning on throwing away anyways. So I thought I would switch things up and show you what I was planning to use for the prompts immediately, instead of just calling the prompts while I am doing what I do. So I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments if you did. And I might do this more often. In the end I switched up some things. Only one of the elements, the element of nature, I didn't end up using an orchid, but I ended up not liking that, removing them and using something else, which I will tell you by then. So first up, let's start with a background. And my idea was to use the piece of wool blanket that I cut up from a blanket that I had already thrown in the trash. And then luckily I remembered in time that I needed a piece for this. So I took it out of the trash again and cut this piece off. And what I'm doing is I mixed up a color that I liked, and I was really inspired by the dried orchids that I had collected from a plant from an orchid that I own, and I really wanted to mix that same color, maybe in a little bit of a lighter tone. So that's what I'm doing here, and then I am putting that on the blanket or the piece of blanket and simply dabbing it on the page for a textured background. And you see I'm simply dabbing it on the page for a special effect using the wool. I'm really excited to see how others interpreted this prompt, because I had a hard time figuring things out. So for the napkin I decided to make my own decoupage glue by simply mixing some fluid crafting glue with water. In the end I made a little bit too much of it. I didn't have to use a lot because you thin out the glue, so it covers a lot of area. And I used that to glue on the napkin. I didn't put anything underneath. I just put on the napkin and then took a paintbrush and started gluing it down. And I was wondering whether this would work, but because it's only one layer of the napkin, I didn't put on the entire napkin but only the top layer, because I wanted this transparency and have the beautiful color that I just mixed shine through the napkin. I just used the very top layer of the napkin to have the pattern but still have a transparency. And as you can see I still have a lot of glue left over, so the ratio is 1:1 I believe, and then don't mix as much as I did because that's just wasteful. I had to throw it in the trash in the end. So yeah, not the best, or the Hey Maze, you want to be in my voiceover? Sorry, my cat is demanding attention. And next thing, the black and white image. I had just bought the newest Flow magazine and I loved all of the black and white images that were in there. And I found this one that I felt like it matches the poem that I end up using perfectly. And at first I thought maybe I would use the entire bottom part but then I decided that I didn't really like that, and at first I cut out the girl with her shadow, but in the end I thought that looked kind of weird somehow. So I decided to cut off her shadow as well. I don't really know what to say. I'm just cutting and cutting and cutting here. And I am so glad that I kept the piece of background that I had, because it helps me position the girl a little bit better than just using it blindly, and maybe she would be floating a little bit weirdly. So I used the background, that the cut off parts, I used that to position the girl, which you can see me doing quite a few times in this video. Then I had some leftover gift wrapping paper, and somehow it's from the same store, so it is the exact same pattern as the napkins. If you're interested in the wrapping paper or the napkin, I don't know, maybe you are, and you are from the Netherlands or any other country that has this store, it is from the HEMA. And I believe that's in Spain and England and Belgium and France and maybe some other countries. But yeah, I really enjoy this wrapping paper. They also have a gold version. This is the silver version, and it's super shiny, and I wrapped all my gifts in this and had to buy more. Just because I liked it so much. And they have a lot of this in this line. One of the rolls of my double-sided dot roller broke, so unfortunately that was a little bit messy, as you just saw, but I don't want to throw it away. I still want to finish it, using it, but maybe I will, because it's such a, I don't know, it gets everywhere, and that's the whole point of having a roller tape, to not have the mess everywhere. But yeah, I don't blame the production. It's just I think I did it even by putting in the new roll. The instructions weren't very clear to me, because they are mostly in Chinese, I think. But yeah, I broke it, and now I am determined to finish using it. And because it was such a hazard, I decided to use some glue for the girl instead of using the tape. For larger areas it's fine, like the background of the stars, but then for the girl the glue was more convenient at that moment. So next is my poem, and I say my poem because it is actually a poem that I wrote. And the poem goes: and in the broken pieces of the mirror I saw the reflection of my soul, splinters of reality, bright brown eyes, deep as galaxies. And I wrote that with some black Chinese ink or Indian ink. I'm not sure whether it is Chinese or Indian ink that I used. But I used a dip pen and wrote it in all capitals, just like the way I wrote all my poems that I wrote in this booklet, with the same ink and probably the same dip pen with the same capital font, which is basically just my handwriting in capital. And I just thought it fitted this background perfectly, also because the stars are a little bit like broken pieces of mirrors. And I don't know. I will let you interpret the poem yourself. It is something very personal to me, but I think that's the beauty of poetry. Everybody can interpret it for your own benefit. And I hope you like it. It's a very personal thing for me to share my poetry. I used to share it a lot on Instagram, but I was in a dark place when I wrote all my poems, so that's a sigh of relief or anxiety, I don't know. And then I decided to add the orchids, and I don't know, I just couldn't figure out how they would look good and how they would stick. So I simply used some of the tacky glue that I used for making the decoupage glue as well, but I didn't like it in the end. So after gluing them down, I immediately, or not immediately, I waited for a while for maybe it to sink in and me to start liking the orchids. But I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like the way it would probably crumble and disappear in a while anyway, because the flowers weren't flat. I dried them as entire flowers and the only pressing they had was, well, during this video, so they probably would have crumbled anyways. So I decided to take them off. And then I felt like I still needed to fulfill the prompt, although I was inspired by the color of the orchids. But I used a simple prompt. I used a pine cone, a tiny pine cone, and dipped that in white paint and added blobs of paint, like I like to use my blobs of paint a lot, and just twirled around the little pine cone. And I don't know, I thought it gave it a little bit more of a messy look, and this is the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video and this explanation and the way this turned out. I absolutely love it. I love using my own poetry. I might do it a little bit more in the future because I like my own poetry. I write it for a reason. Thank you for watching, and I hope I will see you next time. Bye bye. And Meisje also wanted to say bye to you, so